Today, inshallah, we're going to be discussing about a very, very important topic here with me. Today, I have a very, very prominent youth with me who will, in some time, introduce himself to the viewers.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kuyate. It is a pleasure to be here today with you to share my thoughts and, of course, perspectives with fellow Gambians, friends of Gambia, and, of course, anyone who is currently watching, Vision TV here in the Gambia. Discussion today is quite very, very important, looking at the political dynamic of our country and how young people are willing to change the narrative in the Gambia. So indeed, it's a pleasure to share this, perspectives with you. If you look at the political narratives of this country, since inception, young people have been participating more, in changing political dynamics in the country. You all could bear with me that in 2016, the change was made by young people. Young people mobilized that political change, to unseat a dictator who ruled the country for 22 years. And then came again, said that he is not going to step down simply because he thinks the election wasn't fair. So therefore, he's going to contest against the results. It was young people who stood up and said, Gambia has decided, Gambia must go. 65% of those who voted in that election, are aged from 18 to 25 or 30. You understand? This recent concluded presidential election too, if you are a very good observer, you are a journalist, you'll understand that 68% of those who participated too are still young people. Even more than 60 are young people. 58% of those are women. So you could see how young people have been trying to, change political narratives in this country and how they are willing to participate in national election, not only participate in election, but of course take political positions. This happened in South Africa from 2016 towards 2017. Ghana also the same thing. They said not too young to run. You see young people, involving in politics, taking political position from the age of 24 to 35. According to the National Youth Council survey, the age of young people in the Gambia start from 18 to 35. You understand? So that will tell you that, we have a younger, population in the country. 65% of this population are young. United Nations is telling you that Africa has the youngest population in the world. And by 2035, it's going to be one of the, we'll have more than 200 million young people in Africa. But are we prepared? What have we prepared for these young people? So it is seriously alarming. I think it is high time for our leaders to observe some of these things and know how we can uplift our young people to participate more, not only participation in politics, but of course take positions that would definitely help them to proceed.
What will you say? How, involved young people were in 2016 and the recent
Comparing 2016 to 2021, I think more youth participated in 2021 than 2016 because this was a time, when we have no dictator anymore in the country and people are free to say anything that they wish. People are free to align themselves with any political party that they wish. So there was that freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech in 2021 and 2016. To work on democracy, under a dictatorial regime, who will barely allow youth or people that wants to show their political grievances to go outside in the street and show their grievances. Today, you just need a mere permit from police, to go into the street and show your grievances. In 20s from 1997 towards 2016, it was difficult. We saw how political elites, political leaders, political actors have been arrested, tortured, some were even beaten to death. We all witnessed the TRRC revelations that happened from 2019 towards the end of 2021, and we saw how witnesses were saying some of the things that happened to them. So all those things were some of the things that culminated, to affect our, juvenile democracy, in the Gambia. But now we are enjoying this beautiful one. And the entire country can see how, important a democracy is. We just concluded our election, and now we're expecting a National Assembly election again. The election, according to observers, was free and fair election. And then the winner was declared. And now the incumbent president, who is elected again, is expected to be sworn in on the 19th of this month. So it was done in a free, unfair environment, in a very peaceful environment. And we saw how young people also participated in that. we saw what happened, from November towards December, how young people try to gather themselves to organize peace concerts, to mobilize voters. We saw how National Youth Council and of course the NCCA, all participated in educating the masses about elections, about how to conduct peaceful elections in the Gambia and stuff like that. So all those things contributed towards our peaceful democracy in the Gambia. 2017 to 2021 National Assembly is one of the best in the country. It's really one of the best. They gave hope. They gave us that hope that as a country we can still move on. There still can be an accountability and transparency in anything that the government does. So I think that is highly, very, very significant to our juvenile, or will I say our baby democracy that we are building, because it is still not 100%. We still have so many things to do. We still need to move on a fast pace approach in making sure that certain policies are implemented, in making sure that our accountability is in place. The check and balances that we talk about between government or among government officials, are respected. The judiciary sector to be well strengthened. All these are things that we need to put in place. And then these are some of the things that the parliament, should oversee. These are some of the things that they should watch. They should serve as a watchdog to some of the things that the government do. Not even some of the things, but everything that government does. So the parliament and the executive, must not be in the same line. They should be, on a parallel line or whatever. So it's not easy, but they are the most, significant part of our development. Absolutely. So I think youth should definitely, think about this. We should definitely participate, in National Assembly elections more and local government to do. We still need to move on a fast pace, approach in making sure that certain policies are implemented, in making sure that our accountability is in place. The check and balances that we talk about between government or among government officials, are respected. The judiciary sector to be well strengthened. All these are things that we need to put in place. And then these are some of the things that the parliament, should oversee. These are some of the things that they should watch. They should serve as a watchdog to some of the things that the government do. Not even some of the things, but everything that government does. So the parliament and the executive, must not be in the same line. They should be, on a parallel line or whatever. So it's not easy, but they are the most, significant part of our development. Absolutely. So I think youth should definitely, think about this. We should definitely participate, in National Assembly elections more and local government. These areas are very, very... you will believe with me that representation has always been a problem, in the Gambia. Sometimes the community, feel that they are marginalized. Not only young people thinking they are marginalized, but sometimes the leaders that we put into office, to execute their functions, to represent us all well, don't do as expected. In many instances, when these people are voted into office, especially those in the rural Gambia that are lucky to be part of the parliament, if you go back to their committees, most of them will tell you that we've missing our parliamentarian for quite a long time. You understand? This is so very bad. We don't expect that from them. These are the people who voted you into office, and all what they needed from you is to represent them well. You understand? So they all have their policies to portray. This is why they were lucky to be voted into office. So you must not miss those people. You must make sure that you go back to them, ask them about some of the things that they are facing, some of the challenges that they are faced with. Sit with them, have a policy plan with them, a holistic one, then brought before the National Assembly. Debate on that. Defend your points, defend your policies. Let them know that yes, you are really represented them. But sometimes it's indeed a problem. When some of these people are voted into National Assembly chambers, oh my goodness, you hardly see them even debating. You hardly see them talking, representing their people. And each and every one of them, has a problem to profile, at the National Assembly. But they don't talk about those problems. So what is the essence of you being, in that chamber? So it's quite very, very sad. I think the qualification or requirement procedures need to be also revisited again, because you cannot expect someone to be a National Assembly member when that person has not even attained a formal education. I mean, the National Assembly is saying one of their requirements, or the most important requirements, that you must finish is it junior school or government exam? Is it WAEC or what? And a lot of those people are currently in the National Assembly. Some of them are not even in the, have not even attained college, neither university. So I think the requirement is quite very, very cheap for many. This is why we have so many people that are not up to level but still serving us as national assembly members. At the end of the day, they will not even know their responsibilities. And this is one of the most important sector in our country's development, because they are going to make sure that corruption that is currently undergoing in the Gambia is minimized. Even though we cannot eradicate it totally, because it's going to be very difficult to eradicate corruption, but we can at least reduce corruption. So, people that are expected to do that, oversee that, should be highly qualified people. Those who understand their roles, they understand the objectives of that assembly and know how to execute their functions. Should be those people. Absolutely.
So what are we saying here? It's a dismay that, those that we have in the National Assembly
are not actually doing up to expectation. So this is why it needs to be very, very competitive.
So when trying to address this issue, I think we have to go back, like you said, to the drawing board. And going back to the drawing board is at the community level.
Yeah.
We should not just handpick people from nowhere and then tell them, okay, assign them to be our duty bearers. And in turn, we expect them to do something good for the country. Yeah. So in most cases, I normally follow parliament proceedings. You find out that some national assembly, it's just hard to say, but they are just they are not always backbenchers. So we expect them to be making their voice, and they have elicited this issue.
Absolutely.
They are not just there.
Each and every constituency in the Gambia has a problem. All of them have a problem.
And I believe they are giving people, and they are giving allowance, consequence allowance for them to reach out.
In the Gambia here, many communities lack clean water. Health facilities are dilapidated. You go to schools, also the same thing. A lot of these problems can be discussed at the level of National Assembly. This is their purpose. But if you don't understand your own purpose, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to push your own agenda and solve people's problems. So I think this is indeed very, very sad, though. But I think more education is needed. More awareness is needed, because like I always said, that the Democrats always believe that for a society to be responsible and of course powerful, it must first be informed, but also well informed, because society sometimes can be misinformed. So if we say the society should be informed, you should definitely push that point a little bit to say well informed, because misinformation is something which is very, very trending every part of in everywhere in the country, and even in Africa or everywhere in the world. So if we participate more to educate our people about some of the things that they need to know very, very well at communal level and at national level, that would definitely help our country to grow bigger and more.
Okay, now before going away from that, viewers, this is the way we are doing our discussion here in the studio with us, in the Vision TV here. But then one thing here that we all need to understand here is from the grassroots level, we need to be very, very mindful on trying to pick people or to select people who will represent us. So this is something which should make an open call to all of us. Whosoever is to be elected post, to be given the opportunity to go and represent, the person should be have to be someone who is well educated, who is well informed, to be able to make sure that these people the community or the constituency that he or she is representing is highly represented. So Kemo, thank you very much for putting light to that area. I believe viewers are definitely enjoying what we are discussing here. Now, thank you. Youth security.
Okay,
it's very, very important. How security comes driving the country.
Yeah, if you talk about youth security here, it could mean many things. Youth security on employment, threats and violence, and stuff. But just to start with, I think employment is the most important thing. To have a secure job in the Gambia here is quite very, very difficult. Not even a secure job, but even to have a job is quite very, very difficult, in the Gambia here. Still now we have 41 or more % of the country's population that are not employed. And those underemployment too is quite very, very high. You don't know your status, whether you'll be employed or not. There are so many Gambians that are sitting out there. There are so many university graduates. There are so many college graduates. A lot will tell you that the reason why I venture into teaching is because it's my last option. This shouldn't be. It's very, very sad. Teaching is a noble profession. You are a teacher, and you've been into the field for quite a long time.
Exactly.
You understand? But probably if somebody could ask you today, or any one of your friends, you will say, well, this wasn't my ambition. Simply because that motivation was lacking. If you are getting a very, very good hype, if you are getting a very, very good paid, you will stay on track and focus on your teaching. So the only way a teacher can motivate an inspired student is when that particular person or teacher is happy with the job that he or she is doing, is motivated. That is quite very, very like. This is why we see so many of our young teachers complaining. Last time the government announced that there will be a scale, in the government increment in the civil in the public sectors. You understand? But sometimes it's quite sad too, because you could hear some of the teachers also were complaining. How about the teachers now? In the civil service. You understand? So I think all these areas need to be looked at. They need to be checked very, very well. Our development must not only focus on just few areas like infrastructure or other areas too, but it has to be holistic. It has to be holistic. You have to think about education. You have to think about health. You have to think about security. You have to think about youth. You have to think about employment. You have to think about women empowerment. All these things are part of development. And you have to scrutinize and see, which area to privatize, and then we can move on. But we have to understand that no country can move, without education. Today, the world has moved from industrial, economy to, knowledge economy. I say this everywhere. Knowledge economy because we want to, advance our technology. We want to, invest in education. We want the expert review on policies, and some of the plans that we think can develop our nations. This is what we need. This is why the world is now moving from industrial economy to knowledge economy. Because if you have experts that will draw a very good policy plan for you in a very fast-paced approach, you will definitely proceed, you will definitely develop. So that's why a knowledge needs to be created. And in the only department or sector that we have to develop that knowledge is colleges and universities. They need to prioritize. Education is very, very important.
Indeed.
So I think we must not neglect that part. Health also is quite very, very significant. Those doctors need to be trained. They need to be inspired. They need to be motivated before they can deliver well. But of course, they also need to be, provided with the facilities available.
Most definitely.
Coming down to trickle down to the issue of young people. It's quite very, very challenging though. For most of us in the Gambia here, because a lot of us are not even secured with the job that we have. Simply because. Sometimes it's not very, very realistic, and then motivations are very, very lacking. Low wages, is quite very, very, high still now. People are paid, on a minimal wage. You work for almost, 12 hours or 14 hours, you'll be paid less. And this is going to be from Monday to Friday. Imagine, it's quite very, very sad. And if you are renting to a family member, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to meet some of those demands. Knowing fully well that a lot, is expected from you, and you have to deliver more. So I think more job opportunities should be created for young people. More creational centers should also be created so that young people can also show their talents. Because we must not only focus on academics education, but of course, we must also venture more into entrepreneurship. These are some of the things that can also, help our country to move. Rwanda is now, one of the, fastest growing economy, in Africa. Yes.
What are you seeing here? What are you seeing here in short? Government is not bringing up that employment opportunity in the youth or what?
That is it.
That is it.
That is it.
And,
there is no space. There is no
looking at the
space.
percentage of the young people. How much are we calling here? How many percent?
Young people, we are currently in the Gambia, we are above 60%.
60%.
You can say
so
that, yeah.
looking at that percentage, that is very, very huge.
It's very, very high.
So you see,
It dominates the entire population.
That young man who is struggling at the universities, at the colleges, any tertiary institution, finishing his or her programs, at the end of the day, sit down and say that okay, there is no job offered to me.
Very good.
There is quite a lot. There is quite this high. So in that regards, what will you tell the government?
Yeah, I think the government has a lot to do. The government need to concentrate or highly, heavily invest, in creating more opportunities for youth of this country and prioritize Gambians very, very well. This is our country, and each and every youth must be ensured that after he or she graduated from a high school or college or university, will have a secure job, where they will earn their livings and, of course, help some of their family members too. It's a very small country. If more opportunities is created in the Gambia here, of course, we will definitely develop. Every youth will be well secure. The reason why we have so many security threats in the country, people attacking, armed robbery and stuff like that, simply because young people are frustrated. We have seen so many social delinquents, amongst young people. You have so many backward returnees. Currently, the government of UK, stated that they're going to sanction Gambia if they don't, respect the protocol between UK and Gambia. That some of the Gambians that are living illegally in the UK will be brought back to the country, will be returned. The government of Germany too, the same thing. More than 1,000 Gambians probably are expected to be brought back to the country. But what ground have we prepared for these young people, these returnees? If the German or if the European government are thinking about bringing back this country, Gambia should think about integration or reintegration of these people. We should make sure that we developed plans that will provide grounds for these young people so that they can also navigate through those things and then achieve their goals and objectives for the country. That's why I'm saying that more opportunities will be created, like some entrepreneurship, the creational centers where young people will go and learn skills, develop their own sectors, employ people. We have a very young girl at the university currently called Rohi Mba. Yeah. Her story was very, very sad. She was on QTV recently and on so many online news on so many online news like Karifatu and Fadu Network. She explained her story to the entire Gambia. It was very, very sad that she had gone through that Mediterranean Sea. She had endured so many difficulties, but yet she didn't give up. Through the package that she got from IOM and other private sectors, she was able to develop her own entrepreneurship, farm. Currently she's employing about 3 people that are working, under her purview as the boss. And she's currently undergoing at the University of the Gambia, where she is sponsoring her own education. So this is quite marvelous. So if young people like her, are motivated, are supported financially, the country would have moved by now. So this is why we have a lot to do. We have a lot to do as a country, but we must not neglect young people. We have, some of them that are very, very creative, and they can think very smart, bring ideas, technologically, and in so many ways.
And I believe the president and the minister, who is there for the young people, is really aware of this.
Yeah, of course they are.
But then how is
these are pertinent issues that we are facing.
Just recently, I met with somebody young back in the 20th Gambia. You come back to Gambia, nothing is offered to you.
No, they are discouraged.
It's better for us to revenge you again, go back to this back way and then try to live in a better life. But then what I keep telling them is like, Gambia is a country that is resting on a fertile land. We can make it here.
It happened so when I was coming from Asia. We had a transit in Turkey. As I saw my own nephew being dragged by 3, Italian police, to be forcefully returned to the country. It was very, very sad. I saw a crowd, with that police because he was very, very aggressive with them. He wasn't willing to come. The same family, and he's a nephew to me. So when I approached the crowd, I saw him sitting. It was very, very sad, to see him in that condition. Simply because he has no hope in the conditions where he was crying. He said he's not going back to Gambia. But they were forcing him to be back. They were forcing him to the Gambia. I talked to them, but they said that, he's in a very serious trouble, so therefore our government doesn't need him anymore. So this is why we are bringing him back to the Gambia. And even according to international law, you really don't force someone to be returned back to his home country if you don't have any prior agreement with the host country. But because they are not happy with the way some of them are living in foreign land, this is why they think it is important for them to be brought back. So it's quite very, very sad. The reason why some of those young people also cry not to come back to Gambia is because they have no hope in the country. They think if they come back to the country here, they will not be offered any job. They will not have any opportunity. So I think they must not be discouraged. The government should give them that hope.
This is something that is very, very serious, and youth, we are still on our toes to make our voice heard. And we are going to be using these platforms, and so many other platforms to make sure that the Gambia and the entire world have what we are seeing. So this is something that is very, very sad to manpower to cite here. So, Professor.
Not a professor.
Yeah,
No.
Yes. Now, comes to our female youths. Come to our female youths.
Okay.
When we check, when we look, you find out that the male youths are more into politics. My own observation. I stand to be corrected. And if you what will be your advice to those female youths that are in the rural areas? Let's go to the rural areas. I want us to go there and talk about that area.
Yeah.
What will be your words of advice to those young people that are in the rural areas, particularly the females?
Yeah, I think that trend is now changing a little bit, because even at the university level, girls or women are very, very competing, with men when it comes to holding certain, student positions in the university, like student politics. I was so much into student politics, and even still now I can say. So they're highly motivated. They're speaking very well. So, but those in the rural area has always been a problem, to be honest. So even the males in the rural area compared to those here, sometimes there is huge gap. You understand? Simply because probably the availabilities of opportunities that those in the urban areas, is quite very, very different. Those in the rural Gambia, I think that could serve as a deterrent to some of the things that they also think they should do. But I think we also have a lot to do as a country, as youth, to motivate, some of them. We have so many, potential young ladies that are doing very, very well in the rural Gambia too. And of course, they see some of the things that some women in the urban areas also are doing. For the first time, we have about 5 or 4 people that are currently serving in the National Assembly, and all women. We also have some ministerial posts, given to women, by the current government. So I think all those are ways that can really encourage them, to not only participate in the politics. Because in Africa, the way we try to, use our women when it comes to politics is nothing more than participation. We just need their participation to vote. Finish. But that it shouldn't stop there. We should encourage them to also mount positions.
To be part of the decision.
Yeah, because if they are part of decision makers, a high chunk of them participated in elections. In Gambia here, according to IEC report, 58% of those who registered in the 2021 elections are women. So leaving a huge gap, with men. You understand? So I think that is a very good, representation if you look at this. But now, how about their participation in manning political offices? Being given opportunities to be appointed as, ministers, CEOs, executive directors, and in different departments. So I think that is also something that needs to be talked about. That needs to be looked at very, very well, so that they can also inspire the young ones that are coming up to see that yes, my auntie was this, and I also want to be like her. Not only say my uncle was this, by boys or whatever. They should also be highly motivated. They should be fit in, but we should also give them opportunity more. We should encourage them to participate more. Yeah, of course.
Before we just conclude, the president keeps saying this development, infrastructure. When there is no infrastructure, development will be, in a very, very slow motion. We've seen gradually. President is thinking of infrastructure in the country. Are we going to say that this is something that is answering to the call of the young people, trying to minimize the employment rate, trying to make sure that young people are more into politics, and then they can have that stage for them to involve in comes to decision making, comes to their areas, both the rural areas and the urban area. Can we say that infrastructure is something that is also?
Yeah, in as much as we applaud the president for prioritizing infrastructure in his development plans. But he must also be reminded that this is not only the area of concentration that needs national development. When you talk about development, it is very, very holistical. And like I said, you need health, you need education, you need energy, technology, empowerment projects. All these are development. But if you're prioritizing, infrastructure alone, meaning you tend to leave some of those crucial areas. Development infrastructure cannot be without education. It can't be without good health facilities for people. Today probably there is a young man who is currently in a doubt or living in a limbo, whether or not the wife will make it at the hospital. Men also, you have so many, older people that are currently, hospitalized, young people who hospitalized. They don't know their condition simply because there is no health care facility for them. There is no proper medication for them. These are some of the things that are very, very and these are basic development things that need to be addressed. we've seen the president prioritizing, building bridges or constructing bridges, and of course, renovating, certain areas. They are all good, but there should be, he should also concentrate more on some of the key development areas, like I said, health, education, empowerment projects. These empowerment projects can help young people more. Let them give opportunity to youths, to debate on issues, national issues. Let them pump a huge amount of money, on issues like competitions, on political, on debates, development agendas, entrepreneurship and stuff. More empowerment projects should be built. So it should not be based on, giving that, leaving that part for private sectors, like IOM or the international organization to do sort of things. No, the government should, highly invest in those areas too. All these are part of development agendas. Electricity has been a problem in the Gambia. Still now, roads are a problem in the Gambia. There is no single flyover in the country. So many things are lacking. Definitely. So if the president is talking about infrastructure, to be honest, we are not very impressed now with the infrastructure that we see, even though we know that development is a gradual process. But I think there should be priorities, and then this should be well diverse, so that we can have a better and a developed nation. Thank you.
That's quite sad. So, President, I think this is something which is an alarming thing to you. So you should make sure that certain things for that area are
also observed.
Yeah, also going to be observed. So we need certain things that you need to address: the health sector, the education sector, all these things. I have no say. Is the young one, this young one who is saying this? So it's something which is very, very quite interesting that we need to make people listen to. So, Kemo, what do you have finally for the young people of this country?
Yeah, our message to youth have been always the same thing. That is, we must not lose hope in our country. That we must see the Gambia force. We must be very, very strong, in our advocacy, and we must engage the community very, very well, because still now the illiteracy in the Gambia is quite very, very high. Our campaign should be those who were born from 2000 towards now should all go to school. While I was coming, I saw a very, very, young, boy, serving as an apprentice. So that's quite very sad. Using these gele-geles, following them. If you ask them, they will tell you that I'm a dropout from school, or I've never been to school. Definitely. Some of these kids should not be seeing in the street. So I think all these are issues that we need to address as a country. It's a very, very young population, very, very young. Some of these things can be monitored very, very well. If a proper research is conducted, we will be able to know why some of those young kids are being seen in the street instead of going to school. So we should prepare for the future very, very well. But education should be our priority. Quality education matters a lot. And that's the only thing that can help this tiny country to develop. If we do that and we have 90% literacy in the country will definitely develop, just like the way Ghana, South Africa, and Tanzania is. So it must start from within. We must encourage each other. We must not lose hope in our country. And we must be also patriotic, in making sure that certain things are done, in accordance, with the laws of our country. Yeah.
So, as you said, we must prepare for the future, and then young people need to be catered for. So, we are afraid this has now got to the end of the program.